After a long hunting season and you've been successful with whitetail or black bear, you're going through roasts and beautiful cuts of meat. The freezer starts to get maybe half full, and then you're looking to some of the forced meats that you've maybe prepared. So here I have a bear and venison sausage, and this is just a pure venison sausage. So this is something that you're always thinking about for snacks, for cheese boards, butcher blocks, charcuterie boards. But I want you to think about it as a main course, as a main dish. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a fresh pasta. There's so much flavor locked into these. So we've got pork fat, there's bear fat, and of course the black bear and venison. All that together is gonna make an incredible base. We just have to unlock it a little bit. The thing we're gonna do today is fresh pasta. I'm gonna show you how easy it is. All you need is a few eggs and a little bit of all-purpose flour, and you can make your own pasta. I guarantee you, once you taste fresh pasta, you'll make it all the time when you see how simple it is. Start with a pinch of salt. You can use flake sea salt. I've got some pink Himalayan here. Use a whisk to incorporate that into the flour. Now this is just straight all-purpose flour, no need to have any baking soda or baking powder in it. And the measurement is for every 100 grams of flour, I'm gonna use 1 egg. So I've got 4 cups of flour and 6 eggs are going in. The next thing I'm gonna do is create a well in the center. So literally just use your fork and press and create a well in the middle. Now you can do this on a countertop, but it's extremely clean to do it in a bowl. Then, if you can, using farm fresh eggs, start cracking them into the center. 6 eggs go in, and then I'm gonna whisk those together and start to incorporate the entire dish. Once the eggs are whipped nicely, you can just gently start bringing flour from the side of that well into the center. And as you do, it'll continue to thicken, bringing it together. You can see as we bring this together how clean it is to do it inside a bowl. One of the things I want to let you know is that when you use farm fresh eggs, the size of the eggs can be a little irregular. So I needed to actually add 1 more egg to this just to make sure that there was enough liquid. You can also take and add some water, but you can see this dough is coming together nicely. I'm just gonna continue to knead it until it's really smooth. Then it's gonna be important to make sure to let it rest. So what we'll do is cover it up with some plastic wrap and then get it into the refrigerator, and we can prepare the rest of the dish while this is resting. With the pasta resting, it's time to get the stock pot ready to cook the pasta in. One of the mistakes that a lot of people make is using too small a pot when they're blanching pasta. The reason why it's so important is you need a lot of volume for the pasta to roll around. If you've ever had trouble with it sticking and getting gummy, chances are you're either cooking it too long or using a pot that's too small. The next key is to make sure to season the water. The key is to make sure that when you taste that, it tastes like a little bit of salt. So it shouldn't be as heavy as salt water, which I've heard before, but it needs to be a significant amount. The thing that's gonna make it change is gonna be the volume of water, the size of the salt, whether it's coarse or fine. The most important thing you can do is learn to taste it. So once I turn this on and it starts to warm up, I'm gonna take a spoon and taste it. If it tastes of salt, it's ready to go. Now for the fun part, we get to start building this sauce. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take and slice up the sausage. I've got a fairly large summer sausage style and then this smaller one. So I'm going to do a couple different cooking or a couple different slices. I'm going to take and I'm going to slice this into these triangular wedges. That way they're more like a bite size, and I like that it'll give volume to the dish. It'll stand up nicely on the plate and it'll look really incredible. So just turning, just like that, you can see that incredible profile. Venison is honestly some of the best meat that you'll ever enjoy in your life. Now this casing didn't need to be removed, but with this casing, I've got a casing you can see here that it actually does need to be removed. So I'm gonna just slice down the side a little bit, reveal some of that, peel it back. I'm only gonna peel back the part that I'm gonna be using. You can smell it. I wish you could smell this. It smells spicy. And remember, this is a combination. This is black bear with venison. I'll tell you a little secret. When we were making the sausage, we were sure to remove all the tallow. One of the common mistakes that a lot of people make is they'll mix in all what they consider to be fat from the venison, And the problem is that it has a texture that's very wax-like, and it is also what gives it a really intense gamey flavor. So I want you to take that off. Now listen, I'm gonna slice this into rings. Now you can see that would be a little bit big, so then I'm gonna stack that up and just slice it into quarters like this. Now I'm gonna get a pan fired up, get it heated up and start to saute it. That's gonna unlock those oils and that beautiful flavor. It'll begin to flavor the oil, and then the mushrooms go into. Let's get started. A good extra virgin olive oil, and be generous with it. There's gonna be lots of fat in the pan. And then let's get some of this beautiful sausage in. The key is to begin to saute it and flavor that oil. And as soon as it hits it, you can hear it in the pan, and we will just give it a quick toss. And you'll see how that'll brown up and we'll start to build all the other flavors right inside this pan. A recipe like this, it's really important to get the steps in the right order. I'm putting the mushrooms in next without putting anything else in because I really need to get the liquid out of these. So I've just taken the bottom off and I'm quartering them. I'd like them to stay large enough and bite-sized enough that it's kind of meaty, but have a look at how this is beginning to develop flavor already. So you see that caramelization on the outside. I can tell you right now it smells incredible, but down on the bottom that oil is getting flavored. Now, as long as I keep the temperature up high, this is going to be really critical to keep it up high, the mushrooms will saute rather than boil and will develop a ton of flavor. With the mushroom sauteing away behind me, I'm gonna prep the tomatoes and the olives. Now, tomatoes have some real acidity, which is gonna help to balance all of that fat. And then there's some bitterness that's gonna come from the olives. So all I need to do is just slice these in half. Want to make sure it unlocks any of the juices or any of the flavor, and to make sure that they're bite-sized. These I'll reserve until just about the end. We're going to take a quick break from this recipe and answer a few viewer questions. At Tall Camera would like to know how to make venison more tender. The first thing to do is to determine what cooking method you're going to use. For example, if you want to do a little bit of work in the refrigerator 24 hours in advance, a marinade with some acid is a great way to begin to break it down. If you want to do it through a cooking method, you can use something like braising, which is in a small amount of liquid and covered over a long period of time, breaks down that connective tissue. The last way would maybe to give it a good pounding. So use a mallet or a rubber cleaver and pound it down, get it tenderized. There's a few ways that you can get it tender. At Brenson Wrist wants to know, are ready-to-eat meals good for camping? I don't know about you, but for myself, when I'm camping or hunting, one thing that I always do is I get exhausted. Whether you're hiking or sitting in a tree stand, it's all a lot of physical exertion. And even if you're camping, you're always active. So a ready-to-eat meal, something you can just pour hot water in, is perfect. Let's face it, if you get some beautiful big buck down or an elk or even a bear, that's the time to maybe have a slice of that. It's even nice to pair that with ready-to-eat meals. Pepper4817 wants to know, what's the best time and temperature on your barbecue for steaks? Well, whenever I'm doing steaks, I want heat and lots of it. So I want at least 400, 450 degrees because I want to be able to get them on, get them turned, and then serve them medium rare. It depends on the time depends on your cooking and how you want to finish it. So if you want medium rare to rare, you're talking about needing an internal probe thermometer. You want about 125 degrees, and it goes up from there. Make sure to get them on the heat, get them turned, and get them off to rest, but high heat is what you want when you're making steaks. Lindsay Bauer writes, what is the best rub for pulled venison? Now, we've got an incredible outdoor chef spice rub that we put together. You should look this recipe up. It's a combination of some of my favorites, including ground cumin, paprika, and some peppers as well. The key is to get it dry rubbed, seared off, and then covered in a small amount of liquid. Braise it until it is tender. It might take as long as 3 or 4 hours. Thank you for your question. After resting for about 20 minutes, the texture of this pasta is just beautiful. The first thing that you want to do is create yourself a workspace, put some flour down so that you won't have the pasta stick, and then unpack the pasta just by rolling it out of the plastic wrap. You can see the beautiful color. The deeper, those farm fresh eggs give you just an incredible look in terms of its color. So a little bit on top as well. And then one thing you really want to make sure to do is if you begin to try to work this entire piece of pasta, it would be almost impossible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it would be very difficult. So when you're, first of all, look at that beautiful cross section. Isn't that gorgeous? What you want to do is what you're not working with, we're going to make sure to wrap that up. But to get started, we're going to press this flat and then begin to just simply put a little bit of flour on your rolling pin as well. Just roll it and turn, and to begin to get that to the thickness that we're looking for, which is that of almost transparent. So you want to make sure you can almost see through it, because it's going to puff up quite a bit when you boil it. Once you get the pasta to the desired thickness, and you can see that, you can just about see my fingers through the corner there. That'll tell you kind of the thickness and what you're looking for. I'm going to turn it sideways like this, and then I am going to simply, we don't need any special equipment. We're going to just use a knife to cut this, but make sure that you get a good amount of flour on in between the layers, and I'll show you why. We don't want that to stick. So with the flour on, I'm just going to simply begin to make an accordion. So I'm literally going to roll this back on top of itself. And this is just so that I can cut it. And I am going to slice pappardelle. The reason that I want to slice pappardelle as opposed to anything else right now is because of the rusticness and the size of this dish. I want something that's big, something that's bold, and something that'll really hang on to these flavors. Now you can see once I slice some of this, because I've got that layer of flour in between, that will not stick on you, okay? So pull this up like this, and look what you've got in the end. You've got this beautiful pasta. Now you may think, well, that's not very much pasta. As soon as I get this into the water, you're going to see it's going to blow up, it's going to be light, it's going to be fresh, and it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Now with a good rolling boil, you're going to gently lay this pasta in, and you're going to see that it will float up to the top when it's ready. All you want to do is just as you put it in, just give it a little bit of a stir, creating a little bit of vortex of water, and that'll make sure that it won't stick. Keep your eyes on it because it'll be ready in about 90 seconds. You can see how that pasta has just blown up. It looks so beautiful. The texture of it is just going to be incredible. It's literally going to be like melt in your mouth. Now I'm draining this off, and one of the things that people often don't do is, first of all, they don't put oil in the bowl, and secondly, taking off too much of the water. So even though I want to drain it, some of that water, if I give this a couple tosses, what happens is it coats the pasta nicely, and that nice little bit of starchy water staying in there will help some of the sauce to stick to the pasta. Now, who would have thought with just some simple, humble summer sausage and a little bit of pepperoni that you could make such an elegant dish? Finishing this with the torn fresh basil, and then just simply using a peeler to finish the Parmesan cheese. This is a hearty dish, it's an elegant dish, but this is a great way to share while at the table, and I guarantee you will think about your force meats differently.